Three here this evening.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Every other week. Oh, these meetings start at 7:05.
Sorry, I apologize. One moment. Where's my thing at? There, right there. The number. Do you know what's up? Oh, geez, you're not even. You're being so unhelpful right now. Where's the? Right there. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thanks. I need the meeting number here. Okay, so. Thank you. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. So that'll have to be busted out. I'm sorry about that.
So what if you take that off?
That's this one. This one. Okay. I think we're rolling. Okay.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Oh, you were already doing it. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. I thought I was in control again. Way to go. Just got yelled at by my wife asking me the same thing. I know. You ready, Mrs. Anderson?
I'm ready.
Okay, thank you.
Ready.
Apologize, it's 7:06. It is Monday, July 20th, 2020. If I can get everyone to please silence your cell phones. Nothing out there? And we're on. How's that? Better? Okay. If I can get everyone to please silence your cell phones and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stand by, I need an agenda. Mrs. Anderson, do you have an agenda?
They're all out there.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. For those of you on YouTube that are listening at home right now, you can join us by going to a GoToMeeting if you're looking to participate, and access code is 585-753-813. All right. Mrs. Anderson, will you please take the roll this evening?
Councilmember Fredericks?
Here.
Councilmember Rounds? Here. Councilmember Chapman?
Here.
Councilmember Holland? Present. Councilmember Plaza?
Here.
Councilmember Smith? Councilmember Graham? Here.
Mr. Smith has had a family emergency this evening. Chair will accept a motion to excuse him.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
All right, Mr. Smith has been excused. Moving on to citizen communication for items not on the agenda. We have one this evening, and what I'll have you do, is it Oaths? 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 Mr. Oaths, I'll just have you stand and give your testimony from there if you're comfortable with that.
Okay.
All right, I'll allow you 5 minutes. If you could please state your name and your address.
Ron Otis, 1805
So I'm here asking questions about our police force. I know we raised the levy for additional officers, and we haven't hired any additional officers. What's the status of that?
Okay. I can help you out with that as soon as you're done with your testimony. The council is not going to respond. I apologize. Council will not be responding or answering of the questions. So direct your comments to me, although council is listening.
Okay, also I'd like to know how much revenue the city's brought in from the raising of the levy. And also how is a vacation vacancy filled as of now? And I don't want to sabotage anyone. I know
You're
you
fine.
guys are in a thankless position. I've been there. So right now, I could make the case that we're paying a lot more money for less officer coverage.
Okay.
And so I'd like to know what the status of all of that is.
Okay.
Maybe.
Bless you. So the way that this works, so we had to take in property, so the levy was passed through property tax allocation. So our property tax comes in May, or is it end of April, beginning of May, is usually when we get our first allocation for the year. I instructed the police chief to hold off before doing anything so we could see what that dollar figure was, because we didn't have the money to go out and hire right away. We didn't want to spend money we didn't have if we didn't have, or not knowing what was in that pot. Then COVID hit, and then there was discussion of delay of property tax. So at this point, we're still collecting property tax, and equipment for the new officers has been ordered, but that won't arrive until towards the end of the year, almost into possibly January. So we've started the process. We haven't started the hiring process, which will be about 4 to 5 months, but we're starting to look at that process now on how we're going to complete that, because we use outside agencies for that. And those agencies currently aren't doing any testing. So we are moving forward on it. I wrote down any questions here. So that would be the status. We're still moving forward. It's a process. Wanted to make sure that we had money in the coffers before we just went out and hired folks. When it comes to the revenue and the property tax, I don't have an answer for you on that, but we've got your information. We can contact you and let you know. Currently with vacation filling, I'm thinking that you're alluding to overtime dollars?
Correct.
Okay, so that process hasn't changed. That's still the same process that was used before the levy was passed. When there is an officer that is on vacation and calls in sick, there's a backfilling process through the collective bargaining agreement that we have with them. So another officer does stand in for that, and yes, they are paid an additional dollars.
Okay.
So that process hasn't changed. Hopefully that once we do get new officers in the door, we may have a little bit of leeway there. So, did that help?
Yes. Can I ask you an additional question?
Go ahead.
One of the officers is a friend of mine, and currently he's by himself from midnight to 6 in the morning. I don't think that's safe, and this is a big city for one officer to use during that time.
Okay.
Is there any remedies for that?
We have memorandum of understanding with our partner cities to include Kalama and the Sheriff's Office. So if there is need for additional officers, they have the ability to call those folks in.
Okay. As far as the testing goes, wouldn't it be easier to hire an officer that's already an officer?
Which would we consider a lateral hire, which we've looked into that as well. But there's some other process. Part of that levy was to hire an additional sergeant, an administrative sergeant to assist with paperwork. And I believe Chief Kelly's first step with that hiring process is to fill the administrative sergeant and then going to the officer hiring. So, but I don't want to speak for Chief Kelly. So I encourage you to hook up with him and get more additional information about that. But we'll definitely get you the numbers for the revenue on the property tax and where we are. But I think I answered all the questions.
Okay.
But we can absolutely circle up after this if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay.
Or I'll come after I get some additional information. I can come back.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the gallery for items not on the agenda? Now's your opportunity to step forward. Not seeing anyone. I see one citizen online. Are you looking to speak to items not on the agenda? He's not. No? Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Moving on. For items on the agenda, we've got a few folks signed up here. So, Rob, and how do you say your last name? Berenson. I'll have you stand there if you're comfortable with that as well. I'll allot you 5 minutes. If you could stand, state your name and your address.
Sure.
Did you want to speak, or you want to kick it down to somebody else?
No, I just wanted to find out what we were going to do here.
Okay.
You want to speak, Cliff? There's a few of us here for this.
I've got three. Why don't we start here? I've got 3 people signed up here. I've got Rob, Angela, and Cliff. Is that the 3? Angela, you're here for something different.
No, I just don't want to talk. I'm just here to support the police.
Okay, gotcha. Cliff?
Yeah, I can speak.
Yeah, so you both are going to speak to the same subject then? Or you just have one of you speak?
Back him up, how's that?
Okay, sounds good. Cliff, you want to go first?
Sure.
All right, I'll give you 5 minutes. Go ahead and state your name and your address for me too before you get started.
Cliff Wilson, PO Box 1513, Woodland.
Rob Berenson, K1 706.
All right.
So, he visited the time, and as you probably all learned, nobody likes what's going on. We discussed the violence and everything. It hasn't hit town, but it wants to. We got it up the highway, down the highway. Seems to be staying isolated. But for the most part, we want to stay out there. I think a lot of this goes without saying, but we kind of wanted to put it on record that we don't want any violence like that. I understand people have grievances, and they are constitutionally protected to air those grievances in public, however they want to do it. But we don't need to go out. So, we put together this resolution together to offer up our support for the council and the police force to do their job, do their due diligence, and be able to do what they need to do in case violence comes up next. So that's kind of what we decided to do.
And just so council's clear, they're speaking to action item I, resolution 724. Does that sound right? All right, perfect.
That's kind of all I have to say on this whole matter. I think the resolution pretty much speaks for itself.
Okay. Rob, you have anything?
No, him and I have been talking about this for quite a while now. We're in agreement that, we're looking for support from the community to serve as in the position of the feelings on how we would approach this. If this was to turn violence or anything of that nature, basically support saying that we don't want this here. We don't want it here. This community is a good community. It's very solid. And that's pretty much it. That's what we're looking for. Support.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Miss Angela, did you want to say anything? All right. Bless each and every one of you. And thank you for being here this evening too. We don't get a lot of folks turning out, so. So I'm going to cross you off then, Angela, but noted on the record that another member of the gallery is here in support of Resolution 724. All right. Anyone else in the gallery that would like to speak for items on the agenda? Now's your opportunity. Mrs. Johnson, is that you in the back?
Yeah, that's me.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I'm here in support of Resolution 74. I think it's really nice when we have young family people coming out and saying things that are really true about our area and want support from the council on that we are a community that isn't having some of the issues, but also there are other areas where they're trying to get councils and cities to admit to systemic racism. And this is just the opposite of that. And I think that there should be no trouble passing something that is just a true statement about Woodland. And I really enjoy the fact that we have a police force that we can all be proud of and one that we want to show support for. But I like the police throughout the country, so that's where I'm coming from. And so I just hope that we adopt this resolution. And I guess that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Mr. Johnson. Mrs. Johnson, can I get your P.O. box?
Or once. It's a post office box, 1808, Woodland, Washington.
Thank you. Someone else in the gallery that'd like to stand and speak this evening?
I don't want to stand, I just want to say
Okay.
I support the resolution as well.
Your name?
Nicolai Silva.
Okay. And do you have an address for me?
814 Hoffman Street.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You support it? Anything else?
I'm here to hopefully support it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? Now's your opportunity to step forward and speak for items on the agenda. Seeing no one. Again, thank you for coming out this evening and speaking. Appreciate that. We don't get many visitors in here. So I agree with Mrs. Johnson. It's nice to see folks come out and stand up for something that they believe in. So thank you for saying that. On to agenda approval.
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Plaza, second by Councilmember Chapman. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Lost it just a minute.
We went pretty fast on you. So.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds. Aye. Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland. Aye. Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
All right, agenda's been approved. Moving on to reports of City Council. Mr. Chapman.
Again, council, appreciate seeing people here supporting, and then actually, it's nice to have somebody out there except for Darlene.
It's nice to have her here.
Yeah,
It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you again, Mrs. Johnson, but with other people.
Yeah, it's nice to see the support. It's nice that this weekend was nice weather, and nice to see that Woodland was out and about and being very supportive and getting out and enjoying themselves. And I'm glad to see that, and to see that even though we've got this nasty virus that's spreading around, that it's not hindering too many people, and everybody's doing their due diligence of social distancing and too tight, they're masking up and stuff like that. And I want to say kudos to Woodland for doing this and stuff.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chapman. You want to say the same thing you said last time? I haven't been anywhere, so I've got nothing to say.
Well, actually, I married my granddaughter 2 weeks ago, so.
Nice.
Yes. So
Congratulations.
thank you. And the next day had a wedding shower for the other granddaughter that's getting married next month, so.
Awesome, good for you. Less than 5, I'm assuming. Good for you. Well, congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
That's good news. That's good news. All right, seeing no one else. Public Works, reports of standing committees, Public Works.
Okay, we had a meeting today at 5:30. And on water, general info, half a million gallon reservoir repair approved by council to start in October. And Clark County PUD Water Services met with the PUD and had pre-con in the works now. Davidson Water Railroad Crossing, need to do the whole vac to find the 4-inch water line and depth and location of gas line. Dennis is still working on that. Under sewer, grease trap program on schedule. Sewer general information, screen head replacement project out to bid in 30 days. Engineering is complete. It should be expected to arrive in August. So, sewer plug next at 623 Beechwood Street, all repaired and fixed, not accepting sidewalk repair, not as nice as CDBG grant sidewalk. So I think they may have him to redo it or something. I'm not positive on that. But Old Pacific Highway and utility improvements completed, working on project closeout. Streets, potholes, did one round of cold mix around town and filled in about 8. Street sweeping, striping, the county may be in town as early as Friday in Woodland to start sweeping and striping the roads. Curb painting is on the list to complete. Torch down on the list to complete at Park and Beaux-Arts, 3rd and Beaux-Arts, 5th and Beaux-Arts, holding off on Gorg since we are doing a grind and overlay next year. Asphalt repair projects have new lists for repairs out to bid yesterday and due back early in August. We have other 1/2 of our weed spraying going on, residential complete, industrial left, chip seal rhododendron and spruce, and redoing cul-de-sac off Lake Avenue should be in August month. There are about 13 cottonwood trees that are rotting in the street right-of-way at the end of Cherry Blossom that we need to have removed due to customer complaint and insurance notification. Police facilities, City Hall on the list to back door to be painted, weather dependent, replaced U.S. American flag and have ordered the Washington State flag, also put a new cord on the pole. Community Center is still temporarily closed. The parks, Horseshoe Lake, planning on hot summer nights and movies in the park to start in August. We're still hopeful that that's going to happen. New trees to be planted for one that broke off and one that is dying in the fall, when dormant season for watering. We have had massive complaints about our porta potties and garbage in the park. People do not have another place to go, and they are overwhelming our parks and facilities. And we would really like it, because we're short of employees, if people would try to take better care
Yes.
of our parks and of our porta potties, because they're doing some damage to all of it. So, Gorg Park, Northwest Steelheaders did a great job of weed eating at the park and will be there again at the end of this month. The porta potty was tipped over and had to be cleaned. Parks miscellaneous, all parks continued to be sprayed and mowed. Other, roundabout, the Kiwanis group did an amazing job on the roundabout and getting that cleaned up. Grants and miscellaneous, safe routes to school, grant application turned in today, 7/20/20. Pedestrian and bicycle program grant with submitted 7/13/20. And Federal Highway Crossing Program grant application submitted for railroad pedestrian crossing on West Scott Avenue on May the 27th. This is needed for the TIB funding in place for Scott Avenue, full depth reclamation, total project cost $365K, matching funds $84. This will come out of the road fund and sidewalk fund. And our next meeting will be 8/17 of 20.
All right, questions for Mrs. Rounds? Public Works, they're in their heavy season right now, so they're rolling with as many projects as possible with the nice weather we've got going on. But I echo your sentiments of please take care of the park. We've already had to remove some porta potties due to vandalism, which is awful. But they're doing the best they can. Hopefully we can curb that. That would be nice.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Plaza.
So I'm taking, since we're still using porta potties, that the restrooms are closed?
No, I believe they're back open, aren't they? They're still closed? But those porta potties, so your awareness, those were there even with the restrooms open?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My question is, why don't we have the restrooms open yet?
Part of it's
There's-
staffing to keep them clean.
Oh, okay.
Even before this, we had vandalism in the restrooms where people were putting things on the walls. And it's, now that they're down 2 employees, it's just too difficult to keep up with.
So it was either open up those, get rid of the porta potties, or keep the porta potties and shut that down still. So
Okay.
we've kept the porta potties down where the majority of the folks are utilizing the park at this time.
Cool.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Rounds. Public Safety.
We had our meeting this afternoon. A report from Chief Jackson provided the committee with an update on the response times and the upcoming possible annexation. And he also reported that there are still 2 more virtual town hall meetings being given by, I believe, Chief Knorr. I believe he said one of them is tomorrow, and there'll be another one next week yet to find out more information on the annexation of the fire department. And then Chief Kelly, we went over and discussed, it's item G tonight on the agenda, the LCMCT it's an interlock agreement with other law enforcement agencies in the part that they will play of who covers who and in the with incidents with shooting and using of force, who would override, who would take care and cover the investigation of these different things. So the committee recommended that the council authorize the mayor to sign that agreement tonight. And our next meeting is August 17th.
All right, questions for Mrs. Graham? All right, seeing none. Moving on to reports of advisory committees. Mrs. Graham, Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. Well, we're still kind of in the same situation. We are still closed due to the mandates of the governor and so on and so forth. And our executive director is still accepting calls that come in to the visitor center and trying to answer questions and keeping up with notifications and whatnot that comes in with paperwork and articles and notices and such. And we are preparing for our golf tournament on the 28th of August. If anybody around has a team, we are also looking for sponsorships, swag bag items, and raffle items. So we tried to have a meeting tomorrow, but that has all been canceled again. So it's frustrating for me and everybody else with our little organization. So hopefully someday we will be up and running and back to normal, whatever that may be.
We hope.
That's about it.
We hope.
We hope.
Questions for Mrs. Graham? All right, seeing none. Moving on to reports of city officers. So I participated over the last couple of weeks with the county, on the county committee for $1 million in CARES Act dollars that was allotted to go out to small businesses, with a maximum being about $35,000 was the cap. It was an opportunity for businesses to apply to that $1 million funding that the county put out there. I'm happy to say that I thought the process was extremely fair. I thought it was balanced, and working with the CEDC, I think that was the first time I've actually had interaction with them. I think it's always been the exec team or council. So Ted Sprague up there did a wonderful job facilitating that conversation. I think there was about 200 applications that came in, a little over 200. And out of those, the request was for $1.7 million, and of course they only had $1 million to distribute. But I'm happy to say 6 businesses here in Woodland will be receiving some of those dollars. It doesn't sound like much, but our population, I think, I do believe it was a fair process, and the majority of those businesses were up in the Longview-Kelso area, rightfully so, due to the fact there's so many of them up there. But I think we're bringing in a little over $120,000 into those 6 businesses here in Woodland. So excited for them, and hopefully we can get them back on their feet. That's what that money's intended for, so they can keep their doors open. It sounds like there's going to be a second round of dollars. I don't know what that dollar figure is, but we've got a meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. So hopefully there's some more Woodland businesses that will be on that list that just barely missed out on that first $1 million, and hopefully we can get some more dollars down here to help them out too. I will be participating in the Rotary golf tournament, by the way. I know you nailed me on the last one, so on the 14th I've got a team going. As far as chamber, I'm still on the fence, but we'll...
August 28th.
August 28th. See what we can do with that one too. And then also this evening, we've got the workshop, which I'll be presenting, so I will save the rest of my comments on that until we get to the workshop. Questions for me? Seeing none, Mr. Boyce.
All right, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. So I'm still working on the reopening policy, so when we do enter phase 3 in open government facilities, we have the planning documents in place. So that's a work in progress, and we want to be ready to go when that happens. The work in City Hall, putting up plexiglass and the movement of a counter is still ongoing. Progress is being made, though, and we hope to have that in place by the time we get into phase 3 also. I participate every Thursday morning in the incident management team meetings. It's with the county incident management team, and all the local jurisdictions participate in the phone call. The IMT is about to go into a transition. They believe at this point in the incident their duties are changing, so we're going to have a discussion about that Thursday, how it's going to change, and I'll report back to council when that happens. So. Other than that, upcoming events, all we have right now is the Planning Commission for August 20th. As many of you know, we had Y Racing set up to do their triathlon August 1st and 2nd. That's not going to happen now. They're going to have a virtual event where athletes participate, on their own and mark their times online. But they're looking forward to next year, and hopefully we can get back on track next year. So, anyway, that's my report this morning.
Questions for Mr. Boyce? And real quick, if I will speak to action item E, which is the reconsideration and cancellation with Mr. Boyce just brought up of special events during COVID-19 pandemic. I asked that, so there's a list that's been given to you. I asked that council not cancel everything through the end of the year and wait as we get closer to the events. I know with the Y Racing, that's something that we've been corresponding with them over, and they chose to cancel that on their own. So I asked that council consider the list and look at the time frame of when those events are occurring before you just say no more events. That's all I ask. Give them an opportunity, and hopefully we'll be in a different situation as they get closer. Questions? All right, moving on to consent items.
Make a motion to approve consent items.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Round, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Consent items have passed. Moving on to action item E, reconsideration of cancellation of all special events during COVID-19 pandemic per Phase 2 or 3 of Governor's Order.
Can I make just a request without objection to have a 10-minute recess? I have a couple questions on future items that are coming up on the agenda for tonight. And I'm wondering if we could take a 10-minute recess without objection.
Not hearing one. The time is 7:39. We'll call it 7:50 back in session, 11 minutes. Is that fair? All right. Thank you.
Is no longer being recorded.
All right, I thought about that.
Who he's going with, or for what?
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. We've been trying for a while with the troopers too. But we might get some now. Oh, one of those guys down there, yeah. I used to work down there. It was fun. Why didn't you do it?
Look how fancy that is.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, that's a big deal.
Well, I think the same, I'm wondering if the same people who complain about the river are going to complain about this because of location and traffic and blah, 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 blah.
See, that's 2002 to
Yeah, I know. I hardly think I already pushed it.
12, you'd be done. Yeah. You'd be done. You would have been done in 17.
No. See.
Come on out. How old are you? You got 10 years in you. Let's do this.
Well, I was thinking about that. And well, I know what she's maybe it's a 65.
Why not? Do it. I think at 65 you get kicked out. I think at 55 you can start collecting. I think you can leave early or something. There's some kind of clause in there at 55. I'll be 55 when I get my. I'll be 54 when I get my. Is that crazy number? That's only like 4 sit-ups.
I'll graduate and collect at the same time.
That would be my
So do you have a separate retirement bill, like the left, one left two thing?
Yeah, it's, well, I think is that a city and county? It's the left 1, left 2, and left 3 program. Like we do Whispers, which is, it's state, it's still the retirement, but it's our own retirement. But they're on number 3 right now. I missed number 1. Number 1 is like the Cadillac one.
The left one was.
Yeah, it's not as good. I don't think it was as good as that one, but it was still pretty good. And then I'm in number 2. They were rolling out number 3 when I came in, and I chose to go with number 2 because I figured if they upped it to a third one, there's something that's going to be missed out, I'll just take 2. You can buy me out later. So it's averaged on our last 5 years, where the Whispers one was on their highest 2 years. Ours is on our highest 5. Who went in there to discuss?
Ben and Dave.
Yeah, he's in there too.
Something like this is more
He's in there, I'm going in there.
One comment I have to make about it is if you look at the site plan, the connection to Safeway is way down, so it's actually kind of behind the side of the Safeway. So what I'm going to ask you for is to look like a mid-building hallway. So exit out right.
How hard houses like that? Yeah, they have that connector, so
Yeah.
you can walk right out and go across, yeah. Well, I think it's very fancy, and you have to have so many, it's the law. That's the thing I love.
So yeah, this is pretty exciting about this. Hoping by the time they apply and they.
I'm horrible that way.
You can ask you. Something to talk about.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Is he hot pulled up in there too?
No, he didn't go in there.
Yes.
He went to the restroom.
I thought he went into the other room.
Oh, did he go in there?
Yeah.
Oh, he did go in there.
That's fine.
I thought he went out. Yeah.
Did they bring cupcakes? Is that what's in there?
People get stuck out in the alley anymore?
I haven't gone down there. I've been up.
So is that what we're doing with this?
Oh, you're
Climber? No, no.
Discuss.
Women's climber right there, south of the beach right there along the Columbia River.
Discuss.
Right off. I've been out there quite a bit this week, especially today.
Well, I got
Kid who brought
friend
Austin Point.
Yeah,
that he didn't see any problem with
Oh, yeah, it used to be, because now they.
at the very end.
We've done,
He didn't see any problem. He didn't see that it would cause any problem. That's what I got out of it. And there's a couple of
How are you?
All depends on what day it is.
There we go. Done.
You just get frustrated and,
Yeah.
yeah, just,
I enjoy seeing somebody.
it's just stuff.
Everybody doing okay?
As far as I know. I got a new great nephew today.
Good. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
We've got people getting married, about to get married, and the other ones are repopulating. That's great.
Garden's growing, too many beans in the vines. And,
Good.
you know, I think the worst part for me is just, it is so frustrating to try and make plans, and you want to make plans, and you want to get it together again, and
You can't.
you think we had plans that was exciting for tomorrow, and it's all down the tube, and, you know, it's just frustrating. The only place I go with that stays the same and I can go in my own little bubble is down to the daycare center, so.
Yeah. Is that what we're calling it these days?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Everybody get all excited when I call it the Naughty Stars, and now it's a daycare center.
Go down there and see the children. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It was very nice to me last Tuesday, so we'll go tomorrow and see if it's going to be nice to me again.
That's funny. Oh, good for you.
So other than that, it's just stuff. People are carrying on and doing things, and like I said, I just get it some days you just get to where I don't care if I do anything. I just don't care.
I'm just like itching
I just don't
to get out
care.
of the house. Like, I just want to get out of the house.
Well, that's the only reason I go down to the daycare center. I have to go someplace, and I see other people, and I don't care if I don't talk to anybody or anything else.
You see people though.
But it's being there with other people, and you're out, and it's okay.
The Zoom meetings are getting to be a little, I mean, they're going quick now.
I don't like them.
I don't either.
Did you go to Rotary today?
No.
See, I didn't either.
And I didn't do Zoom either.
I didn't either.
I'm not going to.
No, I just, it means nothing to me.
Me either. And Darlene went and it was Zoom, and she said it was horrible. You could hear half of it.
Yeah,
She said it was a waste of her time.
yeah, and that's what I'm afraid it's gonna be, it's gonna be the downfall of the, unfortunately.
A lot of
It could go that way.
organizations, they just go away.
Yeah.
Because people stop participating.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me to go there and for people to share their ideas and their thoughts and discuss and stuff, you gotta do it face on.
Yeah, I agree with you.
We just
totally.
have to, so.
Next we get back some of those best ideas and stuff.
Is he done yet?
I don't know. We threw it down to 7:50.
He's taking back the will.
You ready to start recording again? He's taking after me.
Are you done now?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, it is 7:50. We are back in session. Back to action items. Action item E, reconsideration and cancellation of all special events during COVID-19 pandemic per phase 2 or 3 of governor's order.
So I have a question.
Mrs. Rounds.
Are you wanting us to pass this or not to pass this?
Um,
Is that your suggestion?
I guess we were looking for guidance from council on.
Well, I don't want to cancel everything until we get right there and we have to. That's my feeling. So what does this do?
I think that this one here would cancel everything.
Okay, that's what I
Well,
wanted to.
the question I asked at the end of council is, do you have direction for staff? We don't want to cancel the events, but if an event happens and we're in still phase 2 and it can't follow the governor's guidelines, is there direction for staff to cancel that event? Most of these event organizers are pulling back on their own if that happens, but there is the chance, the event may want to go forward even if it doesn't meet the governor's guidelines. So that, because council already adopted and said yes to these events prior to the COVID-19 issue, I guess we're looking for some conversation and some direction as far as how we should handle these events as this COVID-19 pandemic continues. Do we want to make sure they comply with the governor's orders?
Mr. Fredericks?
So I would assume that if the council has already approved and said go ahead with these, that you would do so following the law. Right? Even if there's could be some question about whether or not the law is actually a law, and that's a whole nother meeting.
And I guess the rub is that when council adopted these, we had no idea this pandemic was coming.
Right.
And we want to make sure the council's intent. So if council agrees with your statement, we would look at what phase we're in and can we work with the organizer to make sure the event can happen in a safe, lawful manner. And if that's council's intent, that's what staff would do.
So, okay, then I will make a motion to table action item E.
Second. Okay, moved by Councilmember Fredericks, second by Councilmember Plaza to table action item E. Councilmember Fredericks.
By us tabling that item, does that give you enough direction as to what the council would request you if it passed?
The way I'm interpreting that is that we'll ascertain at the time of the event if it can meet all requirements, and if it does, it goes forward. If it doesn't, we don't.
May I make a statement? I know you're in discussion.
Good.
Sure. Okay, we were working with the Y Racing folks due to the exact topic that you just brought up. Are you able to follow? Because right now it's at 50 people. Are you able to keep everyone separated, and what is your safety plan? So they weren't able to meet those guidelines, so they decided to cancel. So we were having those conversations with the event organizer.
Actually, right now we're at 5.
We're at 5 still, sorry. Well, I think we were anticipating 50 at the time of the event, right?
And if
We were hoping.
Well, how about these other people, the Pacific Northwest Newfoundland Club, Winterfest, and the Veterans Day ceremony people? Are you in discussion with them as far as what's going on?
We haven't had direct conversations with them yet. We will be reaching out to them. We wanted to have this discussion first.
Okay, and let's say hypothetically, just to play devil's advocate here, that these people decide to go ahead with their event, regardless of the governor's orders. Where's that put the city if we allow them to go ahead and do that?
Well, the city would be accepting some liability if we allow an event to occur, someone becomes ill because of it, we could face liability that way. As Councilmember Graham pointed out before the meeting started, she and I had a conversation. When you're holding a special event, there are insurance requirements, and they still have to provide insurance, and I'm sure their insurance provider would have some questions regarding it also.
But I know, well, like with our Planner's Day insurance, we did find out that there is a statement that it is not covered if somebody should come down with the COVID and say they probably contracted it at our event. It's not covered. It is not covered at all. So that, I'm assuming that if people are reading their insurance policies, that, it's why they're canceling. They can't have it. They can't risk the liability. And that's why we went virtual with Planner's Day this year. So.
Mrs. Rounds?
You can have a waiver that they sign that's legal?
Nope.
I thought.
No, but it's a clause stated right in the insurance policy that we have.
No, I think she's saying a waiver so that the organization or the city isn't liable
Is not
for
liable.
if they catch.
It's what I'm saying.
I didn't think that was possible for it.
Frank, you think that?
Well, we usually ask that the city's an additional insurer.
Right.
Right.
Enlisted on their policy, but if their policy doesn't cover
it's excluded.
illness, then the city would not be covered either.
Right.
So,
But if they signed a waiver,
The participants.
the participant signed a waiver.
Waivers aren't airtight, so.
Mr. Randolph?
Still have liability.
You just want to make sure that whatever you do is, you confer with the city's insurer, because you want to make sure that we don't do something that puts us outside of our coverage.
Mr. Fredericks?
So, city council passes the policy that says it's okay for these groups to do their event based upon what has been given to the council already. They're still required to follow insurance requirements, they're still required to follow the law. That is up to the executive branch of government to determine all of how we're going to proceed to move forward. I think the question is whether or not we still allow these events. Now, the question that you have to ask internally is whether you think these events can go on while enforcing state law in this case. And so I think that is what that allows you to continue to do. If you feel that it is unsafe and they can't follow the laws, then you will not permit the event to move forward. because they cannot comply with the protocols that you have set up for that event. And the events that I see, one is a city-sponsored event, the other one is an event with dogs that's a 2-day event outside at the lake. And then there's another outside ceremony on the 11th. And what is Winterfest?
December.
Well, Winterfest, yeah.
And Winterfest
When we
is-
light the Christmas trees.
You like the winter,
Santa
yeah, that's
Claus,
outside too.
Downtown. It's
So
a pretty big crowd.
all three of them are outside events, and the last one's in December. So,
Hopefully we're still not in this.
right.
Well, and see, Winterfest is, I don't know what the involvement is with between the city and the Moose Lodge. They do that, so that would be a.
Mr. Chapman?
Mr. Boyce, with this tabling and stuff, does it still give them lateral distance to say, some of these are hard dates? Is there some of them where they go, hey, we still want to do it, but we want to kind of hold off and wait till like maybe September?
Some have talked about rescheduling.
Reschedule, so it gives them the lateral, they'll do that too if they wanted to?
Yeah, we'll absolutely work with the organizer.
Okay.
Mrs. Holland, sorry.
One of the events, I think, on there is what, movies in the park.
Right. Hot summer nights. movies.
Right. So what I was thinking is theoretically you could do it like a drive-in, right? And everybody could stay in their cars. We could still do it, since that is a city organized event. I mean, I think if I'm sure Tracy is an amazing outside of the box thinker and could still come up with a way that we could have that.
She's giving you the thumbs up right now, you just can't see her.
And be compliant.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, out of all of them, I think that's the only one where people would really be in close contact because you put your blankets out in the park, but you could theoretically pull your cars out there and everybody stay however far apart, by family unit. I mean, just something, and then maybe do the same movie a couple times so that the first group, because you can't cram that many people out there, but you could, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that we could theoretically still have that function. People can still get out with their family, they can participate, be compliant. The other ones, I think the other one's the Newfoundland one. I mean, I think those people are probably going to be pretty socially distant with their dogs and stuff. But I mean, this is why, so last year, on behalf of Woodland Action, I organized the citywide garage sale, and we had that conversation at our last board meeting of whether or not we wanted to participate in that, just because of the liability factor. And so we chose not to. I mean, any other group can organize it. It's just, we could not guarantee that everybody was going to follow the rules for each individual garage sale. And so that was our choice. So somebody else could do it, but I didn't want to be responsible. Since I'm the one that did the organizing, I didn't want to be responsible for that. You know what I mean? So, but I think going all the way to Christmas is probably stretching. Well, that's like sticking the nail in the coffin, and I don't think anybody's willing to give up hope yet. So.
I guess we just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. That's really the intention. So I think we understand the city council's intent.
Councilmember Plaza?
No comment.
Further discussion? Motion on the floor to table action item E, reconsideration cancellation of special events. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
All right, action item E has been tabled. Moving on to action item F, authorize second payment to Chamber of Commerce and notify potential to withhold third payment depending on revenues and hotel motel tax.
So moved.
Do you want,
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry, Mrs. Graham and Mrs. Rounds, can you please leave the room? Just into the room there. Thank you. Still got 4. All right. Action item F is on the table. Authorize second payment to Chamber of Commerce and notify potential to withhold third payment depending on revenues and hotel motel tax. And I think I got a so moved from Mr. Fredericks.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, seconded by Mr. Plaza. Councilmember Fredericks.
I have no discussion.
Councilmember Frederick, or Plaza.
Sorry, still no discussion.
Still no discussion. Gotcha. Mr. Plaza? Further discussion?
We already discussed this at our last meeting, correct? Or Finance Committee?
Finance Committee.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's in my head somewhere.
All right, hearing nothing else, will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember,
Do we bring them back into abstain? No? Okay.
Oh, wait, do we? No? We're good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mrs. Anderson.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza,
Aye.
Councilmember Graham. I gotta find that. There we go. Councilmember Fredericks,
Yeah, I say.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds, Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
All right, action item F has passed.
Is a parliamentary
We were
question?
supposed to call them back for abstentions.
Can I ask a parliamentary question?
Mr. Fredericks.
I've had to not vote on matters that have come before council that are legal matters, and I have never been asked to leave the room. I've always been asked to state the reason why, put it on the record, and abstain from voting. So can you clarify why council members are being required to leave?
What that has been is that when you have a conflict of interest, you can't vote, which is true, but you also cannot engage in discussion. So in the past, people have chosen, and to be out there so that there was no allegation that expression of face or whatever. You're just basically not part of the discussion, and that's how you deal with the conflict.
And so they will not, we will not be entering abstentions into the voting record. It will just be not present for the vote.
That's correct. It's just, I would note that a possible conflict of interest, so they excuse themselves temporarily.
And I think is there a case law from a council member on a land use matter, if I remember correctly, was asked to leave the dais and sat in the gallery coaching the other council members on how to vote, and that's why the folks are asked to physically leave the room now. I just want to make that clear. We're not being mean.
It makes it cleaner because if you're dealing with something, someone could make the accusation that, oh, they rolled their eyes and that was part of the conversation. If they step out, you just make it simple.
Well, you can't even see people making real facial expressions anymore.
You can allege all sorts of stuff.
I can stick my tongue out at you.
I can never
see it.
Give you the stink eye.
How do we get gloves for our hands? All right, moving on to action item G, Lower Columbia Major Crimes Task Force Agreement.
Move to approve action item G.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Plaza, seconded by Councilmember Graham. Councilmember Plaza.
We discussed this today in the Public Safety Committee, and basically what this agreement curtails, I guess, is if there is a major incident involving our officers or an officer-involved shooting, that we have an agreement with the Major Crimes Task Force that someone other than another officer from Woodland PD will be the one investigating the incident, as well as having civilian oversight of the investigation. So that way it's cleaner. There can't be accusations of Woodland police officers helping a buddy out, if it did something wrong. And it just makes the whole thing a lot cleaner and more professional, so I'll be voting yeah on it.
Councilmember Graham.
The same.
Further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please take the roll on action item G?
Councilmember Rounds. Aye. Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
All right, action item G has passed. Moving on to action item H, ordinance number 1463, imposing a local sales and use tax related to House Bill 1406 to be used for affordable housing and related purposes. First and final reading.
Move to approve. y'all already did this one.
Chair will accept a second.
It appears that there is no second to the motion.
Seeing no second, action item H has been tabled, or
Can I ask a question? Could you ask Travis what he has to do with the money then? Or,
not during this portion of the process. The motion has not received a second. We can't go into debate.
thank you.
All right, moving on to action item I, resolution number 724, acknowledging the strength, resilience, and community cooperation in the Woodland community.
I'd like to make a motion to move action item I to a workshop to be scheduled for the August 3rd City Council meeting.
Second?
Moved by Councilmember Plaza, seconded by Councilmember Fredericks. Councilmember Plaza.
Okay, yeah, I read the resolution, and I understand the spirit of it, and I support the intent behind it. However, there is some wording in there that I feel needs to be tightened up and made a little more robust so it's more effective. And so that is why I'm recommending that it go before a workshop so that we can discuss it in more detail and get down to the specifics so that it has a little more weight behind it.
Councilmember Fredericks.
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with Councilmember Plaza on this. I think I'm glad it was brought forward. I just want to make it a little bit more robust and clean up some of the language that is open for interpretation that I want to make sure we're comfortable with.
Okay. Further discussion? Councilmember Rounds?
I just wanted to reiterate that I'm pleased that we had people from the community come forth with something like this, that this is a good, solid community, and they want to support it. So I appreciate that they did send that to us.
Thank you. Anything further? All right, seeing nothing else, motion on the floor to move action item I, resolution 724, to a workshop to be, with action to follow, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay. To August 3rd council meeting. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
All right. That will be scheduled for August 3rd. Thank you. The time is now 8:11. And we are going into a workshop to discuss CARES Act dollars coming into the city of Woodland. You might want to stick around for this one, Mrs. Johnson.
I don't think so.
Well, thank you.
Give them a minute here. Let's sign this real quick here. Have a wonderful evening. Drive safe.
Thanks for coming out, folks.
You all have fun, you know?
Oh, good. Thank you so much.
All right. So the city of Woodland, if we can go, the next slide, please, Mr. Boyce. So, CARES Act workshop. So this evening, I wanted to bring forward discussion on the $189,450 that has been allotted to come to the city of Woodland in CARES Act funding relief. Currently, right now, and we'll go through this, but the CARES Act provides direct distribution to states and local governments and entities with populations of 500,000 or more. They recognize that there are other entities that are out there that are less than 500,000. So therefore, that money, we're basically getting $30 a resident coming back into the city. And this is what they've done, the way that they're scheduled to do this here in Washington. So with that said, we'll be receiving $189,450. Next slide, please. So there's only CARES Act payments for the Coronavirus Relief Fund can only be used to cover expenses that are necessary expenditures or not accounted for in the budgeting process. and were incurred during the period beginning March 1st through the end of December 2020. Some of these items, next slide, Mr. Boyce. Some of these items that we have spent an estimated $50,000 on already in the CARES or into the coronavirus. Oh my gosh, what am I trying to say? Response, thank you. Gosh, I couldn't get there. Personal protective equipment for the employees, City Hall reconfiguration to include the plexiglass that Ms. Coleman is currently working on to include the movement of the counter, electrical work, all those items that are required for safety upgrades to keep folks protected from the virus. Electronics for some of the employees. We purchased some new laptops so they could work from home to keep folks separated and keep business working, and also some professional services. Employee salary, mainly the chief's salary, is included in this $50,000 for the response that he did to the Emergency Operations Center when they stood up in Longview. A lot of his time was spent up there. So we're all trying to think outside the box. We are getting a large sum of money. There's a few things that we could do with them, but we're also limited on what we can do with those dollars. One of them is to hire another employee to monitor safety plans and to fill out paperwork related to coronavirus, which is not something I don't think that we've discussed this with council before. I think I said it a few times back when we were going through the reductions conversation. That's not something I don't think that we should be doing. I think that we're capable of taking care of that ourselves. Mr. Boyce has been working on it himself. Some cities across the state and across the nation are trying to think outside the box to decide what to do with these dollars to help relief in the community. Mr. Boyce, next. So some of the things that we've come up with, number one, obviously out of that 189, we're looking at about approximately $50,000 that's already been allocated for reimbursement. So we wanted to bring this conversation to council now to ask, policy-wise, what do you want to do moving forward with the rest of the money? Because I think that as policymakers, you should be a part of that conversation and direct us on what we need to do. So one program I think that council should enact is the Woodland Utility Assistance Program. Allocate $20,000 to that, and partner with the CEDC to reallocate that $20,000 to those within our city that are suffering from unemployment and being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and this would allow for them to help with their water, sewer, and garbage bills. Mr. Plaza.
So as far as that goes, how are we determining who's in need? Is it going by income? Because I know there's quite a few people that have maybe in the past not been considered low-income people, but now because of their work situation, they are. But if you just look at their, tax returns or whatever, you wouldn't know what the position they're in. So how are you determining who needs that?
So one of the things that Kelso is doing when we look to our partners up there, so they've enacted a rent assistance program. They took the money and said, here's, I think it was $66,000 and gave it to CEDC and say, okay, we want a rent assistance program, you run the program, and you determine who's in need, and we're kind of out of it. So government's not deciding who's in need and who's not. So we've got our CEDC, they've got a series of questions that they ask the folks that are applying, from my understanding, because I did check into it, because I'd say, how do you decide who's just using the program and taking advantage and who actually needs it? They've got a series of questions that they go over with the applicant, and then it was determined at that point how much assistance and if they qualify or not.
Cool. Okay.
So similar to that, and with internally, we're starting to see those increases in the numbers of folks that we're seeing on the utility late payment, and those are asking for payment assistance. I think that this would, I believe that this would be a good program to put in place to help our residents. Another thing is the Woodland Business Marketing Campaign for $2,500, and working with Our Town Buzz, and they are a local group that have the screens inside the restaurants, and they are up and down the I-5 corridor here, but trying to get them, and this is, that campaign would be non-business chamber related, so everyone could take advantage of it. It would help them get the word out that Woodland's open, and come down here and spend your dollars here to help out with some tax dollars and help our businesses keep their doors open. Another idea that I have is for the Woodland Chamber of Commerce for $5,000. A marketing campaign, heads and beds, the golf tournament, saying that again we're open for business. Even tonight we're still discussing possible issues or challenges being able to provide them their third payment at the end of the year. This is a way that they can get involved to try to get those folks and get those dollars back into the account to help them receive that third payment. Meal program for the Woodland School Districts and $5,000. Some of my research, and I'm sure some of you are aware, that schools may not be opening, and if they do open, there's going to be a lot of restrictions that are going to be putting on the classrooms and the students. And one of those things that keeps coming up in discussions, not only within Washington but across the nation, are the fact that the students are going to be having to eat their lunch inside the classroom now. So they're going to be, Ms. Holland.
So what is this? They're going to continue their little bus program, or what are they?
So what they're doing now, there's going to be supplies that are needed to keep the kids inside the classrooms. For the record, the school district doesn't know that I'm pitching this right now, so they didn't call me and ask.
Gotcha.
This is strictly coming from me and through the articles and things that I've been reading. I know that this is just going to be a challenge, and there's going to be a need for, I don't know what, whether it be dishes or some kind of sanitizing stations within each classroom, trays, things of that nature. But I have a feeling that the children are not going to be able to eat together within the cafeteria anymore. So this was another idea that I popped up with to partner with the school district. And I know that there's a lot of mixed feelings up here about the school district, but I think it was a way of lending out and saying, hey, we recognize that there's a challenge here. It's not something, they're not receiving CARES Act dollars, and this was just a way that the city could help out and partner with them to help out our children, make it more comfortable during mealtime inside the classroom. Also, downtown Woodland Revitalization for $15,000, all seasons marketing campaign to get folks into downtown. Again, we did have a new business that opened up about a week before COVID hit, and we went into a closure. That business would absolutely benefit from, they're just now getting back open. That business, the gal put a lot of money into the building and reopened it and then got shut down. So I know that she's struggling down there, which tells me that the retail stores across from her are probably also suffering. So this would be an opportunity to partner with the Downtown Woodland Revitalization Group and allow them to start injecting some marketing dollars into our downtown area with banners, print ads, whatever the group came up with, but a way to go out and market our downtown area, get people back into town. Next slide. So far, estimated $50,000. This is just a breakdown of everything we just went over. That also, so by spending those dollars or creating those programs and preparing for a possible second wave, it still leaves us almost $92,000 in case that second wave does come and we do need to shut down, or there are more restrictions that are put on us or things that need to be put in place. Right now we're doing plexiglass, PPE, those types of things, but there's still some dollars left over in case that we do have to be reimbursed for more response to the COVID. And I think that was my last slide. Oh, so these are some other things that have come forward that other states and cities across the nation are doing. Housing assistance programs. Kelso's doing rent assistance, senior services, meal delivery services, small business grants. Once I think it was Sacramento put dollars, but of course they got like $89 million in COVID dollars. So, I mean, they got a little bit more money than we did, just a smidge. But what they're doing, they went out to the businesses to assist them in doing, it's similar to what Mr. Goddard brought forward with the being able to expand into parking lots and onto the sidewalks with dining options. They're actually going in and doing boots on the ground in Sacramento and helping the restaurants get that up and going. I believe it's by purchasing tables, changing the code, those types of things to get those businesses more patrons in the door. Homeless response, food bank assistance, PPE for the vulnerable folks that can't afford it, such as face masks or gloves, depending on what their work situation is. Educational materials for those communities that don't understand how to stop the spread, and then also technology and website updates for some organizations as well. They're using some of those dollars for that too. So just some other ideas to throw out there for discussion. I'll accept your thoughts and comments, but go easy.
Is there more to the presentation?
No, that was it.
Okay, now
you go ahead. Fire away.
Because the first
come at me.
The first question I had is, what are you doing with the other $91,950, which was your last slide?
Yep, go back.
Second wave.
Just in case.
So
that's our savings account.
I guess I'm a little slow.
Okay.
My impression is the federal government passes a response to COVID-19. It should be spent on, is there time to spend it? Is there a limit on the amount of time that you have to spend it? And then
currently-
what happens to it if you don't spend it in that time?
So currently, right now, it's through August 31st, or the end of, I'm sorry, October 31st. The money has to be accounted for or allotted. We anticipate that they're going to be pushing that date, but right now, that's our time frame, March 1st through December 31st for reimbursements, but the money has to be earmarked by October 31st.
Is there any limitations on what can be spent, the money can be spent on? Because it seems like some of this is a stretch.
Yes, and that's why, I understand stretch is a loose term.
So for example, I would like to give some funding to the Advocacy Center in Cowlitz County.
Okay.
Can I, is that something that I can say, you know, I'd like to do that, and if I can get 3 members of this group to agree with me, that we could provide some funding there, because that's a program that I fully support.
Absolutely.
I mean, is that money that you can use for that? And if so, how does that determine? Because now I really feel like, I mean, we're really stretching.
As long as it's related to COVID. So if we go to the next slide, or the last slide, Mr. Boyes, when we talk about senior services and meal delivery, those are folks that are now no longer able to leave their homes and they can't go out and get their groceries because they're our most vulnerable population. So they're being impacted by COVID-19.
Is that meal delivery, did you say?
Yeah, meal delivery. So that is a program that one community has started to ensure that the most vulnerable and the elderly are still receiving their groceries. So they're able to allot some of these dollars to the folks that are actually doing the delivery of that to make sure that they're getting their food. So it's still COVID related.
So how do you ensure that $1 of CARES Act money ends up being $1 to the end user and not 90 or 50 cents by the time it gets done going through your levels of bureaucracy to get to the end user?
So I can tell you the utility assistance program, we already pay into that into the CEDC. We're members of that. So therefore, from my understanding, that $20,000 would go back to the residents of Woodland, and there would be, like we look at the public safety tax that comes in, 80% stays at the city, 20% goes to the county. We're members of a group that is willing to take on this project. So our $20,000 would still make its way back into Woodland. Versus, I know what you're saying, like the United Way keeps 90%, only 10% actually goes into work.
Well, government usually has the worst return rate.
Yes. And I am aware of that, and I don't support that way. I want the dollars to come back and be useful in Woodland. Okay.
So 91,000, the other 91,000, how long did you have for that?
October. So it has to be allocated, or it has to be determined how it's going to be spent by the end of October at this point.
And if not, then you'll send a check back?
Then we can be reimbursed through December 31st. So at the end of that, if we don't spend that money, it will have to go back.
To who?
Our agreement is going with the Department of Commerce. So we'd have to send it back to the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce then would have to get it back.
Reallocate to another state or a special program that they've determined.
Right.
It's not going to go back to where you think it's going back to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you know, like, I'm going to just bring up,
Do you want to go back to the other slide?
well, how do you know if an agency needs COVID-related money? Like, if there's an agency that, as a member of council, that I think is a worthwhile cause,
Okay.
how do I know if they need a response, that they could be able to use the money that was provided to them?
So I can tell you with the two that are up there right now, the 2,500 and the 5,000, the one to the chamber and the other one for the Our Town Bus. I've already had conversations with Mrs. Miller, asking her what the need was. And that's when we had the conversation of how can you help yourself out? Like what are you going to do? I know you've already made cuts into what could you use right now as a partner from the city to the business community? And she said if we can do some kind of a marketing campaign, that would be great. And she was all ready for that. She said, I've got time for that. And then it turned into, well, we'd be helping ourselves out if we can get heads and beds. That would help us with that third payment coming from city council at the end of the year. So trying to partner and recognize that there is a challenge that's coming. This was a way to help out to fix that challenge.
So does the council, and I know the answer to this question, do we have the ability to be able to say, this is great information, I would like to take it back and have some discussions with some groups that I support to determine if there is a need for COVID-related response that we could assist with, or likewise, other members of council could do the same thing. I mean, two of the members, if we were to vote for this plan, would have to recuse themselves from the vote if it had anything to do with bullet point 3 and 4.
Yes, that's correct. Not 3, just 4. 3 is an outside organization.
Okay, that's correct. Thank you. And do we know if the school does have a need for the meal program?
No. That, like I said, that was not a topic of conversation. I saw that and I thought it was a great idea, and that's why I put it in there. And I think it would be a good opportunity for the city to partner with the school district with that.
Do you know if the school district is offering classes this year?
Not yet. I don't think that's been determined yet.
Hasn't been determined.
It has not yet been determined. But in this type of situation, I believe it would be a reimbursement type process of, hey, we spent, like, we want to provide $5,000 to your meal program to assist with getting supplies for meals being consumed inside the classroom. What's that look like to you? Maybe they go out and they buy $5,000 worth of trays that each student is issued, and they keep in their locker, whatever it may be. They turn around and give us the receipt, and we write them a check for $5. So we know exactly what it's been spent on.
Got it.